Hello, everybody. Welcome to RTL Sports Talk. No Michael Buckheister here today. He's at work. Just Matthew, Lyle, and Billy Hatten. How you doing today, Matthew?
I'm doing good, man. It's we're getting into, like we've talked about it so much, we're getting into that just eye of the storm of our sports season. I was giddy the entire, even in blowouts yesterday, I was giddy just because we're getting to playoff football, and that's really where the NFL really makes its money, especially what we've seen this season. So I'm excited. How about yourself?
Oh man, for sure. My Browns finally doing what I thought that they should have been doing at the beginning of the season. Right now we would be in the thick of that division right now. We're talking about the Steelers will be at 7-4 instead of 7-3-1. My Browns will be at 7-4. We will be splitting that tiebreaker. I forgot who has the most division wins between the two, but both of us will be 7-4. We'll be in prime position, but that's okay. That's okay.
So last night we saw speaking of a division game, we saw a really good division game. Vikings-Packers. Vikings pulled away 24-17 win. I thought the Packers would be more hungry. I thought the Packers needed to win that game. The results show otherwise. What's your takeaway last night, Billy?
I had mentioned, yesterday before on RTF when we did the show that the Green Bay Packers are 0-5 on the road. I just didn't expect that to change much. It seemed like, to your point, I thought they would have came out a little bit more hungrier. I just didn't get that from them. Maybe on that first drive when they went down and scored with Devontae Adams, the back shoulder throw on Xavier Rhodes, I turned to, I forgot who I was on my friend, and I said, listen, this is gonna be a long night for Xavier Rhodes if Aaron Rodgers is hitting that throw. And then it just seemed like to me they just took a step back and they kind of went to the run game, something that they should have probably done earlier in the year instead of waiting till late in the season when you still got a chance to get in there. Just for me, as you alluded to, I thought they should have came out with a little more fire. Kudos to the Vikings handling their business at home, getting the division win to move closer to first place.
Right, yeah. Kudos to the Vikings. I saw, from what I saw, I will admit I did fall asleep, didn't stay up and watch the whole one. But it did look like the Vikings were trying to get more people involved other than Adam Thielen. Looked like they were he had Diggs semi-open, 15 yards on the field, but he took the wide-open tight end at 8 yards. So that, even though that's not a big deal, I think that's something smart you build towards for a playoff run. But one thing that's jumping out to me right now, wrapping up week 11, entering into week 12, or week 12 into 13, because everybody's had their bye weeks. I'm noticing that there's three types of teams. There's teams like the Chiefs, Saints, Rams, who's almost got their division locked up, and they're starting to think, how can they get through the season unscathed? Then you got teams like the Browns, you got teams like the Raiders, you got teams like even the Giants now, who their season's over. You have to figure out what you want to get from this season. Like the Falcons, for example. Do they want to just develop Calvin Ridley as much as possible? Do they want to just get him as many touchdowns as possible just to really get going for his second and third season? And then you got teams like a lot of other teams that are in that playoff push, your Titans, the Colts last night or yesterday looked really solid trying to make this happen. So there's three types of team. I would have put the Packers in that middle. But because they had a chance to make the playoffs, but they looked like they were the team that was giving up on the season. You alluded to it before the show, Billy. They gave Aaron Jones a lot of carries, when they were losing. That's something you do when you're trying to build for year 2 or 3 or 4, not a team trying to get into the playoffs. So I was just really disheartened by that. If I was a Packers fan.
Yeah, and speaking of that comment, let's just go ahead and switch over. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is to blame for this mediocre tier season that we've seen out of the Green Bay Packers?
I don't say I'm going to blame him because I got so much more to go off of. And unless he's giving you Nathan Peterman type year where he's got 4 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 3 pick sixes, 4 fumbles, and 25 sacks. I really can't blame him because we've talked about this when we talk about their legacy. They really give him nothing. They gave him Adams and they give him Cobb and they make some receivers, but I'm thinking Aaron Rodgers is the reason that they're so good. They took away Montgomery. They took away his defense. They don't ever give him much help on defense. So he might be a % of the problem, but if I'm making a list of the Packers' failed season problems, I go quite a bit down the list before I get to Aaron Rodgers.
I'm going to be in the minority on this one. And I think Aaron Rodgers deserves a lot of culpability in this. I get it, just for me, and I've said it plenty of times on the show. You've also said it on the show. Tom Brady don't get these kind of excuses. Oh, the defense was bad. Oh, Belichick made the wrong play. He don't have anybody to throw the ball to. For years, Tom Brady had nobody to throw the ball to. At one point, he was throwing to a guy that was playing cornerback as well. And we never made excuses for him. We never made excuses that he doesn't have a running game. So for me, if you ask me right now, this season, would you rather have Rodgers weapons, or would you rather have Mitchell Trubisky weapons? I guarantee you most of the people would say Aaron Rodgers. If you ask me, would you rather have Aaron Rodgers' crew, or would you rather have Matt Stafford's crew? Most people will tell you I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers' crew. These two teams got the same record. If you're a quarterback, and I know I'm always the team guy, it's not a one-person thing. If you got a guy as great as him, he's supposed to be able to lift you a little bit. It don't seem like this team is going anywhere. And Mike McCarthy is going to lose his job for it, because he's going to be the ultimate blame. Right or wrong, I don't think it's right. But Aaron Rodgers deserves a little. He deserves a lot of blame, being the type of quarterback he is.
No, I get it. You're absolutely. You played my heartstring, Billy. You played on the fact you brought in Tom Brady, and when he lost the Super Bowl last year, so many people made fun of him for Nick Foles giving up 500 or having 500 yards passing. Not Tom Brady's fault. They made fun of Tom Brady for dropping a first down catch. Yeah, that is Tom Brady's fault, but the man's a 40-year-old and he's not a receiver. You don't see 40-year-old receivers for a reason. But he never got any of those excuses, if you will, that Aaron Rodgers perhaps gets. So that's a good point.
Yeah, all they say is Nick Foles outplayed him. Nick Foles won the Super Bowl.
And really, Nick Foles didn't, other than that one catch, and that's because Nick Foles is probably quite a bit more athletic than Tom Brady, especially at this day and age.
I mean, he did put up 500 yards, Tom Brady did, and people don't give him that excuse, ever. They never give him an excuse. And it just seems like with Rodgers, he gets every excuse, every single excuse.
And you give me that team last year. Now, obviously, this year, Gronk's seems to be a little healthier, and they got Josh Gordon. But that team, I would love to trade receivers in the Super Bowl and had Adams and Cobb,
Yeah, give me that matchup. Give me an Aaron Jones really over a Sony Michel. Well, I think Sony Michel is going to be good, or James White was good, but give me an Aaron Jones who's looked really nice. I get it. As you mentioned, we talked before the show, I said he had 17 carries, while Aaron Rodgers only had 17 completions for only 198. He didn't even get to 200 yards in a game where they trailed the whole time. And Aaron Jones is nice. I got out here in El Paso when I joined the military. I got stationed out here at Fort Bliss. Maybe in 2010 or 2011, in 2011, July 2011, and this guy was a sophomore. So I watched him play in high school from a sophomore all the way up to college. He's a nice back, but no reason he should have 17 carries in a game where you trail the whole game, a division rivalry, and you're trying to make a push for the playoffs. It just didn't make sense.
And that's my takeaway from earlier. If they were 2-10, or if they were 10-2, I'd be like, okay, they're just trying to preserve. They're trying to get that run game ready for the winter. But they're in the middle of the playoff things, and I said on the show yesterday, if they won that game, whoever won that game yesterday, I think are going to get into the playoffs. So with that being said, Billy, yesterday, pretty solid NFL slate. I want 3 quick answers here for you. Biggest surprise from yesterday's games, biggest disappointment. And we did our predictions yesterday. What's your biggest I told you so?
For me, I think I'm gonna start with the I told you so. That's that the Vikings will win last night. I had no faith there. You said the biggest
surprise, like surprise, the thing that put the biggest smile on your face.
Actually, seeing my Browns perform, because I've seen this team work on all season. Obviously, I follow all the Cleveland Brown pages. I'm connected in all the Cleveland Brown little fan circles, and I watched this team work, and I know how good this team is. And I know I've seen Baker Mayfield play in some pressure games. I know how good he is. In this defense, who's been showing out all year, I figured that if we could put it all together, and you always talk about it, teams that need to learn how to win first, and maybe this is our year to learn that. But I knew this team wasn't a 1-15 team or 0-16 team. I knew this team had more wins in them. So for me, I guess the biggest surprise or feeling of excitement was the Browns. And you say the biggest...
Your biggest disappointment, the thing that when you turned off the TV after a Sunday NFL game or Sunday NFL Sunday, was you like, man, they let me down?
I had a few, and that was my Carolina Panthers. I picked them to win. Graham Goodnow, Florida State kicker, famous wide right again. And then, the other Florida State kicker, the legend, Janikowski, actually making the field goal kick at the end. I thought I had that pick. And the other one was just the Giants. Like, how pathetic in this. You're talking about a waste of talent. We're talking about a waste of talent for Odell Beckham.
Yeah. No, I agree. See that's going to be one of my small "I told you so" moments, and I not really directed towards you in this because we were kind of on the same page. But I told you they were the Ryan Fitzpatrick of teams, and you don't get more Ryan Fitzpatrick-ish and choking than having a. Not only are you in the race for the division, you're finally back in the talk. You're in fourth place. You're making ground. You have the third place team down 19-0. And you choke. They go 25. They outscore you 25-3 down the stretch. That's the height of all chokitude. If there was a giant, more Eli way to lose a game, I've not seen it. But my biggest I told you so, and this was kind of the one that you alluded to there too as well, Billy. And I'm not going to talk on it much. Was the Seahawks Panthers, and the reason I'm finally smiling because of that is because I said Panthers are going to fall. They didn't. I said they were going to choke and lose to the Buccaneers. They didn't. And then finally, after playing that harp and singing that song 4 or 5 weeks, they're finally on like a 2 or 3 game losing streak. So it's kind of like when
it seemed exactly what you said yesterday about the Seahawks came exactly true. Like everything you said about that Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson Seahawks team, it's like everything you said, they did it.
And that's it. Honestly, a lot of people laughed when I picked up Russell Wilson in the draft. And I'm like, this is the guy you want in fantasy football playoffs. Because your fantasy football playoffs always are between week 13 and week 17. And that's when Russell Wilson usually plays his best. Typically after a 1-3 start. And I was just hoping. And just like Tom Brady, I'll be wrong once with this because it can only go on for so long. But that was one of my better I told you so moments. My biggest satisfaction, if you will, my biggest surprise was probably there was 2 small ones. One, even though I was wrong on both these picks, I enjoy when I'm wrong with my head, but my heart's happy. Seeing Ben Roethlisberger lose to the Broncos, you called it. But to see the way he threw an interception on the goal line to a D lineman, and allowed the Patriots to get that half game lead on them for that second place. That was a good one. But one, and I'm not going to get into the point because you mentioned it in the chat. So Jalen Ramsey probably did. He had a solid game himself yesterday for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But there's at one point he looked at the entire Bills sideline and said, trash, trash, trash. He basically called everybody on that sideline trash. And if you want to call the receiver that you're guarding trash, Tyreek Hill or whatever, that's fine because you have to physically back that up. Even if you want to invoke the quarterback and call him trash and hope he tries to throw at you so you can pick him off, I'll give you that. But Jalen Ramsey's not blocking for Blake Bortles. Jalen Ramsey doesn't have to run routes for Blake Bortles. Jalen Ramsey doesn't have to kick. Jalen Ramsey doesn't have to throw touchdowns. So when he looks at the entire organization of the Bills and says the words trash, which probably is the reason that I'm drawing a blank on the name, but the Bills D lineman and Fournette got in a fight, and you lose.
Oh, Shaq Lawson.
Yeah, Shaq Lawson and Fournette get in a scuffle, and you lose both, and now you get turned. You had the ball on the 1, in a tie ball game. You get a couple penalties and a couple bad plays. Now Blake Bortles has to do his thing, gets sacked again, and now Lambeau misses a kick.
I like how you say do his thing.
Because at this point we know what he is. He's no longer he's no longer hiding behind the tank of a defense that he did last year. That team does not trust him, and he no longer is able to hide behind them. So that one put a smile on my face. And look, I know Jalen Ramsey did his part as a corner, but when he wrote checks that everyone in his organization now had to sign or cash, wasn't possible.
So quick follow-up to that real quick before we move on to the next question. Do you think the Jags trade Jalen Ramsey? Do you think he's a Jacksonville Jaguar next year?
I think a lot of that depends on the conversation you have. As an organization, when you have an all-star, I think you sit down a great player like that and you say, what's the deal? Tell me what you want. If he says, I just want money and I want to run my mouth, then you find a way to keep him. But if he's like, if we ain't winning or if we don't get a better quarterback or if we don't do this, I'm going to be a cancer in this locker room, you got to move him, but you got to do it secretly because cornerbacks have a limited window. And if you put it out there publicly that he's unhappy, you're not going to get much for him. So,
and he still hasn't had he's still on his rookie deal, if I'm not mistaken. He hasn't he's only been in the league for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I mean,
it's best to go ahead and try to move him now before it's too late.
I definitely agree, but also you got to remember, or typically in my mindset, when you get a great cornerback, like say they typically draft them young, like Jalen Ramsey. You get about 2 years where he's overperforming his salary. And then you're going to get about 2 years where it's about 50-50. He's going to sign that big deal and you're paying him what he's worth. But then you're going to have about 2 or 3 years where you're overpaying him. And you got to find a team that's okay with that.
I.e., kind of like what Richard Sherman, I thought
exactly
was at the top of his game. He was the best in the league.
The list goes on.
That was my best.
You got Richard Sherman. It happened a little bit. Darrelle Revis. It happened with Amne Asamoah. Remember him? He was a stud for the Raiders. They were getting him cheap. The Eagles signed him, gave him a good.
And now he's married to Olivia Pope.
And just one real quick, and I would like to know your input on this if you have anything. The thing I was disappointed in wasn't a whole lot on the field, but Baker Mayfield's excuse for not going out and showing some love to Hugh Jackson. Now, I'm fine if you don't want to go out and hug the enemy, even if he was your old coach. I don't know how well their relationship is, but the excuse he gave was what disappointed me. The fact that he said, we always talk about athletes trying to make bulletin board material out of nothing. He was like, he left us and went to a different team. No, you fired him, and he had to go continue to try to feed his family. That's the thing. Like, if you would have came up and said, hey, I felt like he held me back. I felt like he didn't like me as a quarterback. I felt like he didn't think I was the future. I felt like there was some bad blood between us. I'd have been okay with that. But when he got up on the pedestal and said, he left us mid-season, you mean you fired him?
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to bring this up. I'm right there with you. I think if it was more of that competitive aspect of, like me and him just in jail, it just didn't work for whatever reason. Cool. Me personally, I probably wouldn't have said nothing on it,
right,
at all. But he chose to. Yeah. I mean, you did fire the man. It's not like he just quit and then went to go coach for Cincinnati. You did fire him.
If you break up with your girl and then you see her with a new dude, it's okay to be like, man, that hurts to see. But don't be like, can you believe her? She left me for him. No, you got rid of that. like it's okay. You don't have to love the guy that you work with. You don't have to have that kind of friendship where you hug every time. But don't come in here with that. Like, I'm just saying, that was the only thing. Like, the way he said it, like, you could tell he was – and hey, if it worked – evidently it worked for him because the man flat out balled. He threw 4 touchdowns. So if that's the chip on his shoulder he has to invent to play great, I will applaud it. But it was just ridiculous hearing it.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. And his tone and everything was off. But moving on to the Monday night game that we have tonight, to me, man, it seems like these Monday night games are getting worse and worse. I guess it's starting to pick up a little bit now, but Monday night game, Tennessee at Texans. What's your thoughts? Houston is a 4-point favorite at home.
Well, to your point, Billy, I mean, you know what? If you were going to feed us crap for a Monday night game, tonight's the night to do it. Because no matter what game you gave us, you could have gave us Patriots Steelers, and it wouldn't have matched up to what you gave us last week with Rams Chiefs. So if you're going to sneak in, if you're going to give us a dud, give it to us on a week where we were going to be disappointed no matter what. Because there's not a matchup you could give us that was maybe Chiefs Saints that was going to live up to that great thing we saw Monday night. With that being said, I'm confused on this game because I look at the Texans and I say, you guys aren't very good. And then I look at their record, and the record says we are good. And with the Titans, I look at their schedule, I look at how they play, and when they play not good teams, they don't play good. When they play playoff teams, they play good. So I'm confused because on paper, I think the Tennessee Titans are going to come out here and choke to a lesser team in the Houston Texans. But history has shown me that when the Titans play playoff teams, they play pretty good. So I don't know. I'm probably going to give it to the home team, which I think is the Texans on this one. But and we've talked on itself. We don't have a whole lot of faith, or at least unless you've changed over the last couple of weeks. We haven't seen anything that makes me think that they're going to win out. I still think there's a couple of losses that's waiting to drop. And tonight seems like more good as a night as any.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Texans probably should win it. They coming in with the most momentum, 7 straight after losing their first 3. Deshaun Watson is playing how most people thought that he would. DeAndre Hopkins is doing his usual DeAndre Hopkins thing. Demaryius Thomas is going to find his way into this offense eventually. Lamar Miller is a decent back, but these are the types of games, which is the reason why I picked the Tennessee Titans a few Monday nights ago when they played the Cowboys. These are the type of games that they win, and my heart is telling me the Titans are going to win this game, but I think the Houston Texans is going to come out with the win. In their home, they had the ability to rest, no travel, and all that other stuff. So I'm taking the home team, and they're kind of hot right now.
Just because I know that I was very cryptic in my answer, I'm gonna go Titans on this one. Just because when Mike goes back to listen, he's gonna be like, "You didn't give me a straight answer," and I'll be honest with you, I don't have a straight answer for him. So just to appease Mike in our overall standings, I'm gonna go Titans on this, even though I have majority Texans on my fantasy team. So moving on a little bit from NFL, going back into the college ranks, what do you think the playoff team, when the playoffs come out, what do you think the conference that will be left out of the playoff, or shall I say conferences, if we're considering 2 SEC or not considering Notre Dame a full ACC participant?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say conferences because for me, I think it's 2. I think the Pac-12 get left out, and I think the Big Ten get left out. I just don't think unless Ohio State comes out and dominate with Northwestern, who's been a pretty solid team against good teams this year, they will have to dominate them, and Oklahoma would just have to completely, win, but maybe it's not a real impressive win. So for me, I think the SEC gets in with Alabama. I don't think they lose. Clemson is not losing to Pitt. So the ACC gets in. Notre Dame gets in as a independent, partial ACC team.
And with the ACC already having a representative, that argument really doesn't even matter because, the ACC's in it no matter what.
Exactly. And, and then I think the Big 12 gets in with Oklahoma. So I think Pac-12 and Big 10 is going to be left out.
Yeah, the one that I would just walk right into the bank and just put any amount of money on would be the Pac-12. They just don't have anybody. The closest thing they had was a number 8 Washington State, which I didn't really have a whole lot of faith in to begin with. That team lost. Washington's not moving up there. So they're absolutely out. I'll bet any amount of money on that one. Where it does get a little confusing, I think there is some love for the Big Ten, but the Big Ten waited too long to have its competitive battle. If this matchup if Michigan would have had this loss to Ohio State 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think one of those teams could have bounced back and built on it. there's just not enough time for me. And we've talked about it yesterday with Oklahoma. I think they're going to be heavily favored over Texas, and I think they're going to come out there and they're going to put up big numbers. I don't think they're going to stumble. They're already right there in the rankings to be favorable for the committee. I think it's just really a no-brainer for there to be Oklahoma. Now, I'm going
to go ahead.
Would you give what percentage would you give? And this was just a quick build on that initial question. That there are 3 power conferences left out, whether it be two SEC schools or maybe they shock us out of nowhere and put an undefeated UCF in there, which we both think both those options are very rare. But if you had to put a percentage on it, are you giving more than 2% chance?
Probably not. I don't see that happening. UCF is literally they have to beat somebody right now like 170 to like 0 in order for this committee to leave out a possible 2 SEC schools.
Yep, or
yeah.
or a money grab. Look, you can say what you want about Ohio State; it's going to get viewers.
For sure. So for sure, they want that to kind of be more of a topic for sure. I guarantee you, when they go in there, they're going to want to try to find a way to put Ohio State in there, especially after beating the team that they had at number 4 and was saying that they had the best defense in the country.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, too, on that one, Billy, because I think there's 0% chance UCF gets in. There's like a 1% chance that they get 2 SEC teams. And even though it's small, if I was going to give 2% chance to anything, I'm going to give 2% chance that they put Ohio State and Oklahoma in over undefeated Notre Dame, which would leave only one conference out. So, the fact that I guess it's technically there, but it's so rare. Yeah, I'm with you, Billy. Give me like a 1% chance. But
yeah, I just don't think it happens. Quick side note, or on the last topic here, Jimmy Butler had another buzzer beater win last night over Brooklyn. This is 2 in 7 days for him. Do you see this team going anywhere deep in the playoffs, or you just think it's one of those little he's emotional right now? His adrenaline is up because he's on a new team.
That and mixed in with what I think it was on our Thanksgiving show when Mike Buckeister asked about Kemba Walker and the Hornets. This is just energetic gas that isn't going to last. He's going to put up great numbers. He's going to hit game winners. He's going to play out of his mind. He's used to being played hard under Thibodeau, but it doesn't last. It doesn't have a playoff run in it. And there's nothing that he's doing, because what's going to end up happening is he's going to just run himself ragged until the playoffs get here. And then it's back to Embiid and Ben Simmons trying to get it all done with an exhausted Jimmy Butler. There's nothing that he's doing that sets up those other two to be anything better than they were last year, if not worse, because they lost Covington and Sargent. So I actually think it looks good now, but I think it's fool's gold because it's setting up for a disastrous end of the season playoff.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I said it when the trade went down. Butler is just he's an average guy. Like he puts up the numbers offensively, give you about 24. He's going to play defense. We already know what type of animal he is on that side of the ball. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think this lasts. He does this from time to time where he has spurts where he can take over and look like the more dominant player on the court. But this will not last a full 82.
Yeah.
This will not last throughout the playoffs.
And one point, so and I'm saying this because, of course, I'm a fan and I witness how this happens. But Jimmy Butler is average, like you said, but he has great heart. He has great energy, has great effort. And sometimes that's undervalued and sometimes that's overvalued. And in Jimmy Butler's case, I think it's often overvalued because where Jimmy Butler would fit great, and I guess you could say that with anybody, but I'm just think about this for a second, with the Warriors, because just imagine how the Warriors already show you they don't care about the regular season. They just want to get to April. Just imagine if the Warriors had just a junkyard dog that they could leash from December to February who would just go nuts, putting up 50 points, grabbing every rebound, shooting it from everywhere, dunking on everybody. And then by the time the playoffs rolled around, you can go sit him back on the bench because he's exhausted, But, I mean, he's just an overvalued player who has great energy. And Now, great job for Jimmy for getting his money. That's great. I think that's the goal of life, is just to come out ahead as much as possible. But I think he's very, to build to your point, Billy, he's just overvalued.
Yeah, I believe so. That's going to be it for today's show. Matthew, you want to take us out of here with a little rant, or you got anything to just put anybody on notice?
I really don't. I had my little rant yesterday. I really don't have much. I'm excited to see what we have here. As like you said, we're getting to the heat of college basketball. They're giving us some great matchups. College football is coming down the home stretch. Bowl season. I'm very excited about. So I don't really have much. Just I'm ready to start throwing out some more predictions as the weeks develop.
Just a quick little side note here, but before we get out of here, me and my girl, her oldest son, we always talk about college basketball. And for me right now, I got probably Zion going number 1. I got RJ Barrett going number 2. Now for 3, for me, it gets a little dicey here, because for me, I think Bobo is going to be the number 3 player taken in the draft, if not number 2.
See what to build on that. Look, I'm going to take it real deep here because I'm going to overanalyze the crap out of this. I think R.J. Barrett's going to end up going number 1. And I think he's going to do that because he's going to be the guy you can build a team around. He's the guy that's going to put up absurd numbers. And then I think Bobo's going to go number 2. I think some guy overseas that you've never heard of yet will go number 3.
That sounds about right.
And look, I don't mean this bad. And I don't think it's going to have an immediate effect on Duke. But it goes back to when your talent, when your skill is athleticism. And I'm not trying to talk bad. Like, there are certain players that just make a living out of it. And let me tell you, Zion Williams is a skilled individual with his level of athleticism. But when that's your skill, the smallest of injuries, of stub toe, can make you have a bad night. So whether it be a little tweaked ankle here, a cramp there, you're going to see. I think you're going to start to see the flaws in Zion's game. I saw a lot of Duke fans. Now, look, fans overreact more than anybody ever. And with the loss to Gonzaga, they went from, we could beat the Cleveland Cavaliers to, Zion doesn't play defense. So I think you're going to start seeing little things like that, because Duke's not going 40-0. I don't think anybody's going 40-0 in these times.
And if you remember, after they played Kentucky, I said the same thing. I said after that game 1, he don't move his feet well on defense, so it caused him to reach a lot. I think a lot of people were just so mesmerized. I guess not a lot of people do what we do, where we're kind of analyzing every single thing because we know it could probably be a topic of discussion. And most people are just watching the game for what it is. And the only reason why I say Zion number 1, just because he's the guy with the hype.
He is.
But in the scenario that you're giving me, it's almost kind of like, I forgot which draft it was, the year draft, but Andrew Wiggins over Jabari Parker, where you got one is the athletic guy who got hurt, and then you got the other guy who they thought was a little bit more skilled at doing other things.
Yeah, that was the 14 draft. And if this was any other year, like the 13 draft when Anthony Bennett stumbled to that number 1 pick, that could be the case here. I just think you're going to see, and you see it more than NFL than the NBA, but you see it in both sports. The guy that is just loved the entire season, by the time it gets to those workouts and those combines and those, like, where it's off season and all these teams can do is just review old tape, guys tend to shuffle around. Now, like I said, the NBA is a little different because if you're good, you're good. But I think when the playoffs come and when March comes and when these guys who, let's be real, even though they played a lot of games in high school, it doesn't really match up to what they're going to be playing in the ACC. I think you're going to see R.J. Barrett really come alive. And you're going to see Zion, who's still going to make some great plays. I don't want to take that away from him, and I don't want to sound like I'm salty or a hater in any way. But you're going to see some of his defensive the defensive struggles that he has come up. You're going to see some of when he has those tired legs and he can still dunk on you, can he still get off a nice 3-point shot? And I think you're going to see some of those deficiencies pop up where R.J. Barrett's probably going to be the more consistent guy. Even in a loss, even in a win, he's going to give you 25 and 10. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. I had said that R.J. Barrett is probably the most skilled, out of the three that Duke got, and he's definitely a guy to build a team around. But that's going to be it for today's show. Matthew, appreciate you for being on with me today.
Great show. I enjoy the back and forth there, so always a fun time.
No problem. I'll see you guys. Today is Monday. We see you guys tomorrow, 9:45 Eastern Standard Time. RTS Sports Talk.